Unfortunately though, even though I did say that in battle rating 2.3 you want something that pans at least 60mm, yeah, unfortunately after a while playing this thing, you definitely want something like more than 65mm. If you do get down tiered, a lot of tanks don't really have that kind of armor, but when you get up tiered, which happened a lot when I was making this video, yeah, this shell is not going to do shit. I don't have gun animation, this is good. Oh my god. Really have to work on my fucking kills. Hey guys, it's Jim here and welcome back to another episode of Heroes and Generals becoz War Thunder. And in today's video, we are checking out the next light tank that's available in Heroes and Generals German faction. And of course you can tell it's the Panzer 38T. Unfortunately though, the one in Heroes and Generals is a Panzer 38T E variant, E for Emil, which doesn't really exist in War Thunder because there's a Panzer 35T, there's a Panzer 38T A, then there's a Panzer 38T F, and then there's the Panzer 30T and A. None of these screams Panzer 38T E. So, of course, I had to go look up for the second or the closest second that I could find. And when I was doing that, I was praying so hard that is not the version I'm thinking about. And unfortunately, it is. Because looking at the stats card, the upper front plate of the Panzer 38T E variant has 50mm on the upper front plate of the hull as well as the turret. And what does that mean? That means it's the Panzer 38T F variant is the closest second to it. Same gun, same ammo. I'm not too sure about the engine, but it's Heroes in general, so I personally don't really care. And oh my goodness, this thing is probably the worst 2.3 vehicle I've ever played. Now let me break it down to you and I will show you why I absolutely hate this thing. So of course, first things first, armor, like the one in Heroes in Generals, you have upper front plate of 50mm right here. The unfortunate thing is that the sloping is very minimal. Like it's only 20mm, so that means pretty much any tank you come across at 2.3 battle rating can actually penetrate this even if you angle. So that's something to keep in mind. But the good news is that unlike the other Panzer 38Ts, you don't really have to worry about 50 calibers because they can't really penetrate your front and sides too well. Maybe they can, but not just barely, you know. However, do be careful about your rear because yeah. And then moving up the turret armor, you have 50mm as well, so again 50 caliber can't really penetrate this. Unfortunately though, for both cases, you can die to 40mm autocannon and above. Seriously, like, why is this thing at 2.7? A rank 3 2.7? Just why, Gaijin? Just why? But anyway, same thing about the upper front plate on the hull. Yeah, you are not going to bounce a lot of shots with this thing at battle rating 2.3, so survivability in this thing is really not too golden, unfortunately, not to mention yeah, your crew space is really not that big. So it really doesn't take much to one-shot you either. But at least the good news is that mobility is not too lacking. 125 horsepower and you weigh around 10 tons, which is actually not too bad. Like you can go up to 42 kilometers an hour just fine. Just the unfortunate thing is that building up to speed can take a while, and not to mention at battle rating 2.3, you will see tanks like BTs or Stuart tanks or whatever, and they can go a lot faster than 42 kilometers an hour. So flying and spang at your own risk, I guess. But at least your reverse gear is actually not too bad, like 6.1 kilometers an hour in reverse. Sometimes I wish it's a little bit faster, but it's not too terrible. And of course, keep in mind that you have a narrow set of tracks, so going off-road can be a problem for you. And then moving on to firepower of this thing, this is the 37mm KWK-38T cannon. And my god Gaijin, what the hell did you do to this thing? I remember the last time I played this thing years ago, it was much stronger than this. And now, like, I really can't put my finger on it. Like, I'm pretty sure it's not volumetric that screwed this thing. Now as the 37mm goes, this is the shell that we'll be firing. The Panzer Grenade 34T. T stands for Czechoslovakia. Armor piercing cap shell that pens up to 62mm of armor. Unfortunately though, even though I did say that in battle rating 2.3 you want something that pens at least 60mm, yeah, unfortunately after a while playing this thing, you definitely want something like more than 65mm. You only pen up to 62mm of armor at point blank, which is not too great unfortunately. Good news is that if you do get down tiered, a lot of tanks don't really have that kind of armor, but when you get up tiered, which happened a lot when I was making this video, yeah, this shell is not going to do shit. Especially since even if you do manage to penetrate, you only have 13 grams of explosive mass, which isn't really a lot unfortunately. Like, there has been so many situations I fired my shell, it penetrated, but you only killed like one crewman or something. Like, oh my goodness, it's just so terrible. And just in case you come across a Sharp B1 Beast because you are playing this thing at 2.3 battle rating, you might want to bring a few APCR just in case. You may not be able to penetrate the sides or maybe the turret, but at least with this thing you can definitely penetrate the front. Now, keep in mind that you do have an upgraded shell, which is really not so much of an upgrade anymore. Like Panzer Grenade T UMG shell that used to be a armor piercing cap ballistic cap shell. I have no idea why they decided to change this. I mean, they only pen up to 61mm of armor now. Pretty sure you used to pen like what, 70, 80 or something? And this tiny little sacrifice for what? Muzzle velocity. That's what. The stock shell goes up to 740 meters a second. The upgraded shell only goes up to 750. And unfortunately, effective range for both shells is really not that big of a difference. So yeah. And of course, you don't have high explosive, but not that it matters because 37mm is really small of a caliber to really do anything to open top vehicles. At least the good news is that you do have a machine gun. Now, other aspects of the gun, you can carry up to 19 rounds of ammunition. I say bring maximum of 50 rounds or so, because if you bring all 90 rounds, they're gonna be up here as well. Thankfully though, they're not first stage, and at the same time, they don't really serve a purpose, so yeah, just bring up to 50 rounds, they'll all be down here. The stock reload for this thing is 4.3 seconds, which is not too bad, but considering how this gun actually performs, I say try to put your points into weapon reloading. Vertical guidance, negative tank gun depression, which is pretty excellent. Targeting speed is actually not too bad, 12 degrees a second. And finally, gun stabilizer vertical, which is effective to around 8 kilometers an hour. So all in all, how does this perform against heroes and generals? If I'll be perfectly honest, they're both terrible. Like, how I broke down the one in War Thunder versus the one in Heroes and Generals. Heroes and Generals was actually not bad at first. It was actually the light tank that Germans use against like BTs and Stewards, and if you play it right, you can actually outgun a Chaffee with this, but the shell changes, the armor mechanics, all this really screwed this thing over. But unfortunately, if I had to pick between Heroes and Generals and War Thunder, Heroes and Generals is better. Because at the end of the day, at least the one in Heroes and Generals can do damage. Now, one more thing to say is that if you're actually watching this series and just want to see what the Panzer 38TF can really do in War Thunder, my advice is just play this one, the prototype Panzer 38T. Like sure, you have less armor, but does it really matter? The same gun, but at least between this and the Panzer 38TF, at least with this thing you have speed. But anyway, that's all I gotta say about the Panzer 38T. Now let's take this thing. Now let's take this thing into battle. And hopefully I can actually do something with this thing. Oh shit. Oh. Is there another one? You're not the guy I'm worried about. Oh, don't block me! I do not believe he's the only guy here. Ah shit! This one. I'm literally 1 inch too far away. Come on. Yeah, I'm not penetrating that at all, man. Sure, this thing belongs at 2.3. What's the worst that can happen?
Attention to the map. Attention to the map. Attention to the map.
There we go. Get the shit out of here.
Attention to the map. Just keep it up, and victory will be ours.
Oh, damn it. This one I've seen something different. I'm gonna make it to my cheese spot. Thank you for doing that. I'm stuck on a tree! Stop! Stop! I'm not even touching the tree! Go shell already, come on. Oh. How do I penetrate that? There we go. Cheat, come on. Oh, go and get me off this stupid rock. Yeah. I keep hearing everybody around me. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's okay though.